One of the ministries that I helped to launch in my home parish as a lay leader, in my intern parish as a seminarian, and in my first position out of seminary as a curate, was to bring together a team of people called to teach and lead in godly play. This is an engaging and imaginative children's formation program that is designed to nurture wonder and awe and helps children become more fully aware of the mystery of God's presence in their life through the art of storytelling and liturgical action. Now, for those of you familiar with the format of godly play, you may remember that each change of the liturgical season is marked by the change of liturgical colors, like we have in our church today. We've gone to the color blue for the beginning of Advent. And each change of the liturgical season is celebrated with the retelling of the story of the Holy Family. Now, you might think this might be a bit odd. Why do we tell the story of the Holy Family to begin the season of Lent? Why do we tell the story of the Holy Family to begin the season of Pentecost? It does make a bit more sense to tell the story of the Holy Family in the season of Advent. In a godly play classroom, the creche, the scene of the Holy Family, is placed in the center of the focal shelf, a place designated for the highest honor and the highest importance in the classroom. So at the mark throughout the calendar, the church year, to mark the beginning of a season, we tell the story of the Holy Family. And it begins by introducing the Christ child. Now, I can see I didn't quite think this out. I know you probably can't see this, but imagine this is the Christ child, and his hands are outstretched. And so as a storyteller, we pick up the figure of the baby in the manger, and we place it in the palm of our hands and say, this is the Christ child. He is holding out his arms to give you a hug. And as you might suspect, each member of the Holy Family is introduced: the mother Mary, the father Joseph, the donkey that Mary rode on, and the cow that was in the stable, and so on. But the story continues. Here is the little baby reaching out to give you a hug. He grew up to be a man and died on the cross. This is very sad, but it is also wonderful in an Easter kind of way. Now he can reach out and give the whole world a big hug. He is not just back then, in this place or that. He is in everywhere and every time. The genius of retelling the story of the Holy Family over and over as we move through the church year is to immerse children into the deepest reality and the baptismal patterns of their lives, of birth, death, rebirth. The genius of retelling the story of the Holy Family over and over is that it lays the groundwork for Christian hope. The mystery of God's immeasurable love can be trusted. God's promise of new life can be trusted. The Holy Family is the matrix, and in Latin the word matrix means womb. The Holy Family is out of which new life comes. Christ's incarnation changes everything. So today we begin the season of Advent, a time to prepare for the arrival of new life. In our reading, we hear the call of hope from Jeremiah and Jesus and Paul. Jeremiah is a son of a priest and was facile in the ways of both politics and faith, and he was speaking to his people at a great time of despair. The powerful Assyrian nation had threatened the destruction of Jerusalem and deportation of its people numerous times. The royal Davidic court and the upper class were already taken captive, dragged from their land, deprived of their temple. They were in exile. Jeremiah was speaking to a people in waiting. Feeling abandoned by God, the God of the covenant that they knew, some were tempted to just give up their ways of covenantal living and make the best of a bad situation in Babylon. So it is in this context that we hear the words of comfort and praise. Jeremiah reminds them that the days are coming, that the future that will be restored to the house of Israel and the house of Judah will be of God, is coming from God. God will birth a righteous offspring of the Davidic line who will act in ways that promote justice and righteousness. In fact, we heard in the reading that the city of Jerusalem will be given a new name. It will be called "The Lord is Our Righteousness." So that when anybody utters the name of the holy city, they are confessing their faith in a God who made a covenant with his people, and they will confess their faith in a God whose nature is of steadfast, covenantal fidelity, whose nature is of justice, whose nature is of righteousness. So in giving the city of Jerusalem a new name means that they were changing the nature of how they worship, of how they experience God away from the temple. Now, when we hear the word righteous, sometimes in our modern ear, we can think of self-righteous, which is really about ego and attitude. But to be righteous in the biblical way, for the Lord is righteous, for a person to be righteous is not about attitude or moral standard. It refers to right action that is in alignment with God's purpose. The work of the prophets over and over is to remind God's holy people that it is the well-being of the community that is pleasing to their God. God delights in steadfast, covenantal fidelity. God loves justice that gives access and viability to the weak. God loves righteousness as intervention, right action for the social well-being of all. Love, justice, righteousness. This is the primal impulse of God. So Jeremiah asks them to trust in this promise of a future that seems very, very far away from their current circumstance. Jeremiah is telling them not to just wait it out, but to wait with expectancy, to wait with hope. They are to redirect themselves and their community to the way of life that God has given them. A new covenant will be written on their hearts, despite desolation, despite fear. And they are to put themselves in a posture that they become partners with God in the advent of a new reality. In the Jewish tradition, apocalyptic imagery was used to mark